Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, apologies folks. Yes, a lot of videos I've been saying I'm going to do haven't really happened as yet. Why? Because I've been busy. Busy, Kilt-Man? Busy doing what? Busy watching telly. Yes, I know. How sad is that? And in fact, it was very sad. The relentless, incessant media saturation of the sad death of Queen Elizabeth II has dominated pretty much everything I've done for the last week, 10 days. I have been, like many people in the UK and around the world, mesmerised, hypnotised, entranced, in awe and enthralled by all the pageantry, the ceremony, the relentlessness of it all, and the incredibly precise perfection of everything that I've seen. It's been absolutely unreal. And yesterday, of course, was no exception, which was the big state funeral of Her Majesty, the Queen. And wow, I remember doing a little video sort of a few days ago saying, all the big wigs around the world, kings and queens and premiers and prime ministers and world leaders and presidents are going to be there, and it's a target-rich environment for any terrorist. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. If you're going to wipe out, the world hierarchy and the world order, the status quo, that would have been the chance to have done it. No one did it. I didn't really think anyone would, but I did think there'd be a few sort of loose cannons in the crowd. Not literally. The cannons went off with perfection. Timed immaculately, of course, with the chiming of Big Ben. Now, so nothing happened, and that's great, and thank God for that. But I have been unable to do videos because I couldn't, throughout all of this, literally sit here and go, hey, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services, when really the whole nation was seemingly heartbroken. And even though I've discussed this in a couple of videos before, that I didn't ever have myself pegged as a royalist, even though she was my commander-in-chief and I totally loved and respected her. The rest of them I really didn't have a lot of time for, but I've seen everything in a whole new light. Oh, I'm not born again royalist, don't go worrying about that. But I love this country's history, pageantry, sense of ceremony, tradition. I love that, and we are the envy of the world. This was the biggest showcase now that the world has ever seen in all our collective lifetime for this sort of endeavour. This pomp, this ceremony, the precision, the sheer scale of people involved in it. Thousands and thousands of soldiers, thousands and thousands of police officers, loads of people on the sidelines, the organisers, it's gone off unbelievably well. You'd think there'd be some kind of little screw up here, there and everywhere. There'd be something. Okay, well, she's lying in state. You did get one of the guards on vigil did faint. But I couldn't. You can't even fault that, can you? Let's be honest. He was caught before he hit the floor. Then you had that weirdo that decided, after queuing up for hours, he wanted more than just a little salute, a bowed knee or a bowing of the head. He wanted to go and touch the coffin. So he stormed up the steps and the police got him. But he did manage to pull back the flag and touch the coffin. And if you watch the full footage, it's only a blink of an eye. But he's pounced on by the Met Police. And he's dragged off very unceremoniously. They've hoisted him in the air and his legs are like kicking. And he's like facing the sky. He's like, and I can guarantee you that on his way out, his head made contact with a few marble pillars. Accidentally, of course. But whether he had problems or not, I don't know the full story behind that. But you had this crazy situation where the Queen is lying in state. Even the royal family are taking their turn doing vigils again. And walking for miles and miles behind the coffin. And these people aren't young. King Charles has got a dodgy leg, You could see when he was doing the Royal Mile up in Edinburgh that he was struggling a bit with that. I think obviously he must have loosened up a bit because he's done so much more since then. Travelling from Scotland to England, London to Wales to Northern Ireland. relentlessly meeting and greeting. His hip or his knee must have loosened up a bit because he was doing pretty well yesterday. And that was a long, long procession that he had to do. But that lying in state, I always thought, even the most idiotic and, devout of bad boys will line up for a couple of days in the rain and the cold weather just for a chance to get in there and push the coffin over or do whatever. And this guy had his chance. Because you're on TV, it was broadcast 24/7. And he had his moment of glory there. But his moment of glory didn't last long. And he was hoisted off unceremoniously. But beyond that, I think one of the priests in Westminster Abbey yesterday, when they all finally got settled down, when they all got in there, a little envelope or a piece of paper he let go of, and it went whoosh, across the marble floor, right in front of all the cameras. And he must have been thinking, literally, dear God, help me out here, do something for me. And during one of the little breaks when he cut away, that paper was gone, but it was there for ages, and it was full view with the camera a lot of the time. When viewing the Queen's coffin, you could see this bit of paper on the deck, and your eyes were drawn to it. You can just imagine his foot was just going out from under his robes, trying to just draw. I can't quite reach. And he's slithering down in the chair, But I love things like that. I love human fallibility. I love how humans deal with embarrassing scenarios, because we're all involved in that sort of thing. Now, the precision of that procession, wow, was just having done parades, having done marches, having done processions in the past, I know how it feels and how nerve-wracking it can be. But they've trained and trained and trained. And the secret behind all of this is that they trained for this very, very event for years and years. The Queen was part and parcel of organising the whole thing. I've always thought, how weird is that going to be? Anyway, in this day and age, we're always told to, arrange your own funeral. Make sure you write your will out. I know you don't want to talk about it. And all the adverts on TV are kind of like the mother or the father sits down the kid, who's probably in their 30s and got children of their own. Listen, I've filled out my will and I've arranged my funeral. It's really good prices. I don't know why I'm paying for it. And they're going, Mum, I don't want to talk about this. Oh, I know, but it helps to be, prepared in advance. Who wants to talk about their own demise? I mean, me, I've talked about it a lot, actually. I genuinely have, because I've got my funeral worked out. And believe you me, what you saw yesterday, that's got nothing. That's got nothing on Kilt-Man's funeral. Mainly because Kilt-Man's never going to die. So I'm going to be a series of fake funerals and then pop out again, hey, at the end of the day. Gotcha again! But it was magnificent to behold. And you think about, the endless processions, all the branches of the military were there, everyone was there. The gun carriage was immaculate. Obviously, they used some heavy-duty blue tack for the orb and the sceptre and the crown. No, they're actually fixed on. That was, my daughter was saying, how come they haven't fallen off? I was like, they're fixed on there. It takes a bit. And but all the branches of the military, the Navy pulling the gun carriage was the first woman in charge of the carriage party. Brilliant. The bearer party who've been working, they've been carrying that coffin since the start of this. Only young lads, incredible. That is incredible. The eyes of the world were upon them. You make one mistake doing that, oh God, and whatever your beliefs may be, that if she's actually even in the coffin, which seems like a bit of a risky thing to do, especially if you're going to lie in state with all the public, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, filed past and paid their last respects. But tradition is tradition, and if they've kept the tradition, then she was in that casket. But in this day and age, I would have thought that's a bit of a dodgy undertaking. But if you think about them dropping that casket, A, they're not going to drop it, and B, if they did, it wouldn't open. So you wouldn't see Her Majesty tumbling out. That would not happen. It's all massively sealed, and it's actually it's heavier than you think because it's lead lined as well. There's a lead lining on it, for apparently hygienic reasons, from what I heard. But anyway, I'm no expert on this, but they did a fantastic job. Occasionally you could see beads of sweat coming down them, which is understandable. Having to negotiate steps as well, and carpeted steps, with your highly polished boots on and all that. Ooh, yeah, you just don't know. And speaking of highly polished boots, a lot of those boots would not be quite as highly spit and span at the end of that day, the amount of horse shit they've had to walk through. Now, when you're watching these endless slow march processions, part of the entertainment value, I would say, is actually watching them try to negotiate the big dollops of straw-filled horse dung littering the mile and the streets and everywhere. And if you're on the outside of that procession, you're on the single file, and there's a 6-foot gap between you and the guy behind, the guy in front, you've got time to see that dollop. And as I watched, some of them did manage to, even in time, oh, they're good. Even in time, they managed to sort of sidestep that dollop, and the next guy would sidestep, and it would work. If you're in the middle ranks, though, rank and file, you've got nowhere to go. You've got no room for navigation or negotiation with that dollop. You've got to walk straight through it, and they do, and they did. And my daughter, again, because she had so many questions about this, and she was going like, what if someone ran in front of them? I said, well, they'd regret it, because then they're not going to stop. They will walk right over you. You imagine all those fuel protesters and whatever they are, the blockaders on the motorways and that, stopping ambulances getting to hospitals with someone dying on the inside, and they don't have a conscience about that at all, because the whole world is dying, you see. I understand what they're saying. I'm not against what they're doing. Their practice and execution of it is diabolical. There's people you should take that sort of behaviour to, who make decisions, not the people who are struggling just as much as they are. But if they got in front of them, every bone would be broken in their bodies. They'd be walked all over, and the guys in procession would not miss a step at all. But no, everything went like clockwork, and it was literally a historical dream come true. I don't mean that in any sinister sort of way. It was every pomp and ceremony and ritual and custom and tradition and etiquette that I've ever seen in movies, been actually done myself, been part of, but just on the biggest canvas. The whole world was watching. No one else in the world can do what Great Britain has done and Her Majesty. That is a point of pride, without a doubt. The precision, the immaculateness of it all. The weather was incredibly good as well. It's a different story when it's absolutely pissing down as well. But like I was saying before, the Queen had a hand in organising all of this. Can you imagine what that's like? So well and good, I've done my will and I've arranged my funeral. But when it's just like, I've signed this and this company's going to do it, so I've paid. It's a prepaid thing, whatever. But for the Queen, I want all these regiments to be here. I want the corgis, I want the horses, I want the old pony, I want everything. I want guns going up in Big Ben. I want this, that, and the other. We're going to travel a couple of miles from there to there, and I want this playing and that playing. The logistics behind that are phenomenal. And she arranged all that. But you think she was there for any of the rehearsals to make sure it was going right? Because they obviously rehearsed this for a good couple of decades when she first started organising it. So would you like to be there watching, oh, this is what they're going to do when I've gone, But then again, otherwise you're not going to see it, are you? And it's a shame that she hasn't seen how well it went off. The initial march, when they began to march from Buckingham Palace, oh my God, and all the kilts, the bagpipes, Scottish, Irish regiments together, that was just astonishing. You see that coming towards you. I don't care how, much of a wailing dervish you might be, with your spears and your shields, or your semtex and your suicide jihadi, that coming towards you, you're gonna run. You're gonna run. Billy Connolly, the big yin, always said about the Scottish Highlander coming over the hill, fighting any foe in some foreign land. You know, he's got a massive bearskin Busby on, like, so a 10-foot giant wearing a skirt comes over the hill and he's strangling an octopus. Fuck that! I'm out of there. And that sight is so majestic, powerful, everlasting, and very, very moving. And so you see me now. I was dressed like this yesterday. Oh yes, I didn't just get dressed up for the video. No, I wanted to do a video yesterday because what happened, I watched most of it on TV, and then I took the dog out, and Roxy the Wonder Dog, and we went to the pub. We went to the Cask, because the Cask were putting on, they were showing the whole thing. They even opened early to show the whole thing. And people were there in suits and blazers and uniforms, had their medals on. And a lot of pubs were the same. Cinemas were showing it. Theatres were showing it. It was a huge, huge event, you know, not just the UK, but worldwide. And so we went in there, buffet table. That was bedlam, you know, trying to keep your decorum when there's a hungry husky dog. They're always hungry. Is trying to literally leap onto the buffet table, breaking moments of silence and poignancy, all for the sake of a sausage roll and a little triangular egg mayonnaise butty. But and there were free drinks as well for the Queen and us, you know, on behalf of the Queen. But I was dressed like this, and because I thought, if they're doing it all, and I'm going to do it. So I walked around, and I was in the Stuart Black, my red tunic. I also put on a US Cavalry, 7th Cavalry genuine belt, which I wear all the time, only because that has the pouches that I have for dog biscuits and dog poo bags. You don't see them scooping after the horses, do you? But I've got to do it for my dog. They fit that belt better. So I could have changed the belt buckle, but the actual belt is a genuine 7th Cavalry belt as well. So no, I'll wear that. So it was a bit of a mash-up really, because I was wearing this tunic. Now this is what I wanted to say, and to people I spoke to yesterday, and I was going on about this tunic. I got it wrong, folks. I genuinely got it wrong, and I've got this wrong so many times. I'm playing Elmer Bernstein's fabulous score for Zulu Dawn. Now, I have the 24th of Foot Regiment, the South Wales Borderers, who were defeated right royally at Isandlwana in the Zulu War, the subject of the film Zulu Dawn, and then had a dramatic victory. Well, it was bigged up a lot because we lost so badly the day before that we massively built up the next day Rorke's Drift, the subject of the film Zulu, where only like literally 100 to 150 British soldiers. That's about 100 redcoats, but they had auxiliaries there and other aides and colonial troops were there too. Held that mission station at Rorke's Drift. They had time to prepare after the massive massacre of Isandlwana, where 2,000 British troops were wiped out. Every single redcoat was killed. The only people who survived were wearing blue or black patrol jackets. And that's because the King of the Zulus, Cetshwayo, had said, if they're not wearing red, they're just civilians. Don't waste your time with them. Just kill the ones in red. I've talked about this a lot. I have a tunic of the 1st 24th Regiment of Foot, the South Wales Borderers, very similar to this, apart from what you see right here, adorning the sleeves and all down the back. And I've gone out wearing this a lot, and I've said, oh, this is the South Wales Borderers. The reason why I keep wearing this one is because it looks better. The actual South Wales Borderers red tunic is very, very plain. There's no embroidery on the back. I'll show you the back. Oh, mind you, I've got this on, so you might not see. But hope you can see there, all the piping down the back. Yeah, can you see? Yeah. This is a drummer's tunic from the 22nd Regiment, the County of London. And these guys fought prestigiously with lots of battle honours, especially throughout the First World War. And they were awarded their colours by King Edward the Seventh in I think 1938, something like that, 1930 something, and at Windsor Castle. So they gained their royal colours, and they are a great regiment. They've since become the Queen's Royal Regiment, so they've changed hands, sort of thing, but changed title. But I was wearing that, and I was going on about it. And the reason why I put this on yesterday is because of all the embroidered crowns on it, and I thought, on the piping, I thought, that's perfect. But in my mind, I was wearing the South Wales Borderers again, and I was fighting Zulus, and no, you weren't. So to everyone I was bigging this up to, I apologise. It weren't what I said. But it was just, it's just as beautiful. In fact, it's a more beautiful tunic. And even though this is the drummer's tunic, it's actually, because it's got more style to it, you know. And my dad, Big Kilt Papa, gave me this because, well, A, it fit me, and B, because he knew I'd wear it. The actual, the Zulu war jacket, now I think about it, is actually it's a lot shorter, smaller than this, much tighter fit. So don't go thinking they're big, burly, you know, Shropshire men and Welsh lads. You know, these were they were quite small, these fellas. You know, we've got bigger as the decades and centuries have gone on. But that's a small jacket. But this was a drummer. You think of a drummer boy, oh, the little lads. You actually weren't little lads. You see a lot of imagery, paintings depicting drummer boys as being like, what, 8 or 9, 10 years old, in the midst of battle and all that, like, and horrified, and a big burly sergeant trying to look after them. They were actually 15, 16, 17 years old. They were young men, basically. And there were men that were drummers as well. Anyway, so I was wearing all this, and there were people who were going, oh, let's Kilt-Man. Take a picture of you. Are you doing this for the Queen? I was going, no, it's just Monday. I always wear this on a Monday. No, it was for the Queen. And I had my ski and do. I had the sock flashes on, I had boots on, and I had the ski and do's down the side of my sock. Mr. Kilt-Man always says you shouldn't be wearing that. That's a knife, because mine is a real knife. A lot of these ski and do's are fake. They're just a sealed unit. So there's a sheath and a hilt, but there's no actual knife. You can't take anything out. Mine is a genuine knife, and it's a good one as well. You've seen it. I open boxes with it on all the unboxing videos. You've often seen that knife, but she doesn't like me taking it out. The actual rule is, the law, I'm allowed to wear that. It's part of tradition, culture, ceremony. So I can wear it. And I've been told off by police for not wearing it. I've been out going to Christmas do's, and I've been on a train, and they were, don't go thinking they were British Transport Police. No, these were proper police. And I was in full finery. I had a different over-shoulder plaid fly and matching kilt, and sporran was on and everything, like. And this guy, and he happened to be Scottish. Don't worry, I'm not going to mangle the accent. I said, hey you! Oh, I am going to mangle the accent. Hey you! Come here! I'm like, you fucking come here. And I was like, he sauntered over, and he said, like, Sergeant Stripes, and he said, where's your ski and do? I went, it's at home, mate. It's at home. I can't really wear that. I can't go out in a knife. He said, because mine's a real one. I said, I should order you to get off this fucking train, get the next one back to your hometown, and go and get your ski and do and put it in there. Fucking come back. You know, you should be wearing your fucking ski and do. I don't think he was effing and blinding, but I've put that in there. But he was kind of like, you know, really forceful. And I said, well, is it actually legal? I said, hey, it's legal, but, you know, it's not. He said, you can wear your fucking ski and do. I'm ordering you to go back and do it now. And as it happens, I didn't go back. But no, he was sound. But he said, no, it's legal. You can do it. And I have been out with it before. And I've been in pubs and clubs. And I know all the doormen anyway, because everyone knows. Normally I strut in there, the kilt, and I'm just wearing a vest, a vest and a kilt, coming in, dancing, woo, and they go, it's Kilt-Man, whiskies, and then all the Americans, because in Liverpool there's always American tourists, they're all like, I love it. Don't get me wrong, I do love that notoriety and the sort of, the celebrity status. And but I always say to the doorman, by the way, I've got skiing doing. And no one's ever said, oh, you can't come in here with that. They're going like, fine. But they always do say, listen, but if someone comes over and says you've got a knife, to satisfy them, I may have to come over to you and just say, oh yeah, she says you've got a knife. Is that a knife? Yes, it's a knife. Okay, that's his skiing do. And they'll explain it to the person that it's actually all right. I know it sounds a bit bizarre, especially in a society where knife crime is so horribly rife. But I'm not going to go around knifing anyone. But the problem is that someone could take it from me and then go with it. But fucking good luck with that one. Don't try and disarm me and take anything that's mine. I'll fucking have you. Then you might find that Kilt-Man's knifed somebody, and I'll get away with it as well. Don't try and molest my body and take my weapon from me. No. Oh no. So, anyway, I've just realised I've got some whiskey down here. Mom. Her Majesty. Cheers, y'all. This score is magnificent. I've yet to do the full discussion on the film Zulu Dawn. Tell you right now, the films I think are the best depictions of real life battles: Black Hawk Down, The Longest Day, Bridge Too Far, Saving Private Ryan, and this. This is magnificent, this film, Zulu Dawn. It was Douglas Hickox that directed it back in 1979. My dad supplied some uniforms to the production, along with some of his other cronies. He also, well, we won't go into a bridge too far because my dad's in that, but anyway, we won't go into that. Okay, we will. Every single scene, or rather the one big scene that he's in, he's cut out, the frame doesn't fit him in. He's at the end of a row and you can't see him. We saw the premiere of A Bridge Too Far, and my dad, I remember my dad's face. I was only a kid. But I remember my dad's face. He's looking for, this is the scene, him and his good mate Dutchman, Eddie Eichelstein, who owned the Flying Dutchman hardware store, which is still going. Sadly, both these men are now dead. But they both supplied, they turned up in their own uniforms. My dad had supplied loads of helmets and weapons and magazines and stuff like, and uniforms and tunics and buttons for the production of A Bridge Too Far. We got invited to the premiere, all the family were there, and his face just dropped when he wasn't on that shot. And then it came out on TV, and you couldn't see him. And it just, each time he saw it, he was just, and it was heartbreaking. And then it came out on video, and then it came out on widescreen, as it was meant to be seen. Remember that? The great big docking, big borders on it, like, and in the first few that came out, you get a little art card as well in the video casing, and you still couldn't see him. Then it came out on Blu-ray, and I thought, oh well, this would be the last possible chance. No, you still can't see him. It is such a shame. You see his mate Eddie though, but it was his homeland, for God's sake. So I mean, it's his birthright, I suppose. But anyway, and my dad supplied lots of uniforms and equipment for Zulu Dawn. So in the movie, and in that, you will see uniforms that he gave. He had a vast collection of Anglo Zulu War artifacts, memorabilia, and sadly, I inherited not that many things from him. But we do know the person that got most of that stuff, because he's a massive fan of the Zulu Wars himself. Professor Richmond Dutton. That'll be you, sir. You got everything. I did get a tunic. But I do prefer this one, though. From the County of London, 22nd Regiment. Go figure. But no one else knows, let's be honest. So, anyway. To just sort of finish back where we started with the Queen and that funeral. When they get to Windsor, and oh my God, we're in a pub, and you know, everyone had held their composure pretty well until the moment when the objects of her monarchy, of her sovereign power, the orb, the sceptre, the crown, removed to be given back on the coronation to King Charles. Always it's going to happen, but you don't think about things like that. And when they took those things away, oh, you could hear the pin drop, and it was just like, I was standing. I had the dog was, you know, I was like, no one could see my face because I was closest to the TV, and the bar was just here, buffet table was just there, and I'm like holding this dog's lead. Oh God, don't leap now, don't make a noise, don't scratch the floorboards with your nails, you know, don't growl, don't bark, don't do anything. And I'm watching this, and I knew I could hear, you know, well, I could hear a wall of silence behind me, and that, to hear that, and that magnified in the cathedral, in city streets, all around the world, that was silence. And then these things got took away, the last vestments of her sovereign power. Powerful. And then, of course, the piper struck up in the vestibule just off to the side. He didn't enter the main chamber, auditorium. The cameras were there with him. Sweet Jesus. Well, when that went, when he began, and it was a final lament, and it was a piece that she'd chosen, and it was called A Salute. What's it called? A salute to the, I wrote this down somewhere. A salute to the fendersmith. What's a fendersmith, you ask? A fendersmith is the guy in castles that tends the fire grates and all the brass work and all of that ornate stuff on the actual fireplaces. He polishes them. He apparently builds the fire but doesn't light the fire. That's someone else that does that. But anyway, it's called A Salute to the Fendersmith. And when this struck up, because people were saying to me afterwards, like, "Oh, what was that piece you played?" Like they think, I don't know what it is. I've never heard it before, but it was so powerful. And what he does, he plays, he's facing the cameras, then he turns and he slow marches off up this chamber, up this hallway, and then he turns left and he goes out. You don't see him again. And the sound, this haunting sound of the bagpipes, fades away in the distance. And what no one realised, back, the Queen's casket begins to lower. Oh my God. And that was the point where composure just went out the window. She went under the ground and we all went out the window. It was blub. There was tears in my eyes, and the free drinks came out then. And from Avril behind the bar, he was like, no, it's a very powerful thing. Back on the marching, and people have said to me, like, how do you keep in step for so long? Well, it's tricky, and it's also not tricky, because once you've trained doing it, it's second nature. But that isn't the point. When there's so many of you moving in unison, you literally surrender your own individuality and you become part of a much bigger organism. So it's almost like, I mean, you could liken it to being in a trance, but you're hyper aware at the same time. And you move as a mass, a body. You have become part of a much bigger machine, a much bigger entity, and it all moves as one. And it's genius, you know, apart from when there's a big pile of horse-poo once a year. I tell you what, it's lucky that horse-poo's not slippery. It isn't like dog shit. It's full of straw. It's very dry. You can sink your foot right into it, but you don't tend to slip. That's the saving grace of that. I'm going to play that piece of music, actually, that, because it's so amazing. This is a salute to the Royal Fendersmith. So this is how the funeral ended, and the point at which everyone fell apart. this is the actual, this is the piper, this is the actual one, this isn't someone else doing it, this is from the funeral. He's walking off. So it's receding. One final lament. Oh, it's... yeah, it's just distant now. So beautiful, that. How it starts again, but let's get into saving the colours from Zulu Dawn. Lieutenants Melville and Coghill are given Queen's colours to get away from the it's the gate. The battle's over basically. It's every man for himself, and yet the British Redcoats, as the Zulus all testified, when they ran out of ammunition, they would turn their rifles into clubs. They would use their bayonets. When the bayonets were snapped off the ends of their rifles, they would be clubbing the Zulus down. When the Zulus managed to get the rifles off them, the men, sometimes in cases just two of them left, would stand back to back and draw their pen knives out and fight. Never gave in, never gave in. The Zulus were in awe of the men. And the Zulus were fantastic warriors themselves. The bravery they showed charging into volley fire is just... to do that and to sacrifice many men. Little Lieutenants Melville and Coghill were posthumously awarded the VC for trying to get across the Buffalo River to save the colours. They didn't make it. They were the Zulus attacking the horns and buffalo. You guys know this. So when you first see the Zulus and you form your defensive perimeter, that's the head of the buffalo you're looking at. The horns have already come around you, but you haven't seen that. There's already thousands of Zulus around, almost encircling you. It's a clever tactic, but they can do it with such a vast line of attack, miles and miles of it, you know. And so the horns have already been marching, or running silently, you know, behind your encampment. Oh, it's brilliant tactics, brilliant. But so, you know, the huge disaster at Isandlwana, we had to give some VCs out to recognition of such bravery. But that's why Rorke's Drift, the defence of Rorke's Drift, is celebrated so much. It's to try to wrestle away the travesty of what the British Army had foolishly done. Chelmsford left, you know, he'd left a couple of thousand men there, but he hadn't ascertained where the enemy Impi was. The Impi is the Zulu army. He hadn't ascertained where that was, and he was falling for bogus information all the time, like. So, and it's going against the judgments of the people who live out there, people that know the Zulu tactics. And there were premonitions of disaster as well. But anyway, so the next day, Rorke's Drift. You've got to bear in mind that 11 VCs were awarded for Rorke's Drift. I'm not undermining the glory and majesty of what our boys did at Rorke's Drift. The defence was impeccable in the face of overwhelming odds. But so 150 men tops at Rorke's Drift. About 100 of them were actually proper redcoat British 24th of foot South Wales borderers. The Zulus who attacked them was region between 3,000 to 4,000. It probably would be more like 4,000. But the Zulus who attacked them were the Zulus who didn't wet their spears the day before at Isandlwana. Wetting their spear, they didn't kill anybody. So they would have went, well, there's your chance. You go and take out that mission station at Rorke's Drift, which ain't that far away. and so go on and take them out. But those Zulu regiments, because the Zulu army, the Impi, was in regimented order. They even had women warriors as well, you know, and there was a high proper structure to their military system, their military machine, and it was the aged warriors and the young ones, as in very young. So they weren't Zulus in their prime that attacked Rorke's Drift. And the Zulu this time made a mistake, because they could see that this place was obviously they prepared, and they could actually build a perimeter all the way around. You couldn't sneak up on them. They could move men to each various area and defend it. If the Zulus had gone en masse and charged in, they'd have overwhelmed it on the first assault. They didn't do that. They sent wave after wave into different parts, and the defenders just took them down all the time with volley fire. There weren't that many victims, there weren't many losses on the British side at all. I think about 15 men. I used to know all this. My dad is spinning in his grave, and I go, you know these, you know their names, you know everything, you know where they're from, you know, because he used to school me and all this, like, and I loved it. But I'm older now, and I've drunk far too much whiskey. But about 15 men were killed, and some were severely wounded as well. But the movie kind of makes out it was such a bigger sort of confrontation. It was big. If you're one of 150 men and there's thousands of Zulus coming at you, oh yeah, that's gonna be. And you've heard about the massacre as well, when they had cannon there as well, and they had cavalry. Well, they had a lot of mounted. They had the Natal mounted police and the other mounted contingents, not specifically cavalry. And they had Russell and his rockets, the newfangled rockets they were firing as well. That didn't work, but Russell and his men went out there way ahead of all the British ranks, who were stretched across about 3.5 miles, maybe 4 miles of open, horrible terrain, where your view of the landscape is not accurate, because you might see the distance over there, but what you're not seeing is in America you call them arroyos, but you call these things the unfortunate term of dongas, and they're big depressions in the ground where huge amounts of Zulu could be hiding. So you might see the Zulu amassing on the horizon, you know, that infamous, you know, terrifying image of all of them coming down the far distant hills and plains, chanting and screaming and pounding the assegais against the shields. Terrifying, because it's an act of intimidation, and it can work as well. But what you don't realise is when they do that charge, there's already thousands who are way nearer to you, because they've crept into all these dongas and they're coming up over the sides. So suddenly they're there, and Russell and his men, you know, I think about 8 men he had, and a few native levies as well, set up his rockets, like sort of like a very primitive mortar, but like a mortar / firework. And they sent up about 2, maybe 3 rockets before they were overwhelmed, and these rockets just sailed out overhead and fizzled out in the middle of nowhere. Didn't do any damage whatsoever, but and they got butchered straight away, like. But and then the Zulu were overwhelmed. Anyway, I could go on forever about this, but this is all inspired by the recent events and the fact that I haven't done a video, and I'm actually off today. I only put this on today to show you what I was wearing yesterday, and to keep this sort of spirit alive. The UK is now in a weird sort of reverie. Everything's apparently gone back to normal. I'm actually off work today, so I can carry on. And I'm going to finish this video in a minute, and I'm going to do another video. So I'm going to try to catch up on the things that I haven't done. But in the meantime, and it's ever eventful and historic in between time, please keep it Kiltic, keep it Celtic. If you've got one, raise it now. Gratuitous product placement there. Famous Grouse, if you're watching, send me some. I'm going to run out soon. And please just, you know, be yourselves, and, you know, look back on these events, because they're sensational, they are fantastic, they are pure history. We will never see the like of this again, never. Right, folks. Please keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all. And rest in peace, Your Majesty.